On June 28, 2009, Stephen Hawking sat in a room waiting for guests to arrive to his party. The scientist had not sent out any invitations yet, but waited patiently, hoping for a guest to turn up. After spending the night alone, Mr. Hawking then decided to send out his invitations. His theory was that copies of the invitations would survive for many thousands of years in one form or another. If humanity ever developed the ability to travel back in time, someone from the future could have shown up at his party. Mr. Hawking later said, "I have experimental evidence that time travel is not possible." This statement, however, is false. Time travel is definitely possible. We do it every day. We all move through time at a speed of 60 seconds per minute. What's even more interesting, we already know how to travel forward in time faster than our normal rate. In fact, the satellites in orbit around the Earth are exposed to a weaker gravitational potential, slowing down their onboard clocks. This is explained by Einstein's theory of relativity, which works so well that we actually have to account for this time dilation when using GPS systems. Professor Hawking knew this, and when famously stating he had evidence that time travel is not possible, he was likely talking about traveling backwards in time. Although he never fully discounted the idea that one day humanity may be able to travel backwards in time. Time travelers were even invited to his memorial service in 2018. But there may be other reasons that the professor spent his famous party alone. It is a possibility that the invitations didn't survive long enough to reach any potential guests capable of going back in time. Or more generally speaking, human civilization itself doesn't survive long enough. As terrifying as this may be, there is nothing you can do about it. If you were now to try and save the human race from whatever impending doom we face, then those time travelers would have shown up at the party. It seems the events have already been set in motion. This raises some questions about free will and determinism. The free will aspect brings us to another potential explanation. What were the professor's intentions if guests had arrived? What if the professor wanted to put a slight twist on the experiment and see what would happen if he never sent any invitations at all? He would announce that time travelers had arrived, and in the future, time travelers know they are supposed to arrive. But who got the initial invitation? This is known as the Bootstrap Paradox. It is better explained by the mad scientist who finds a book on his doorstep. He doesn't know who left the book or why. When he reads the book, he finds that it is actually an instruction manual of how to build a time machine. After months of tinkering in his garage, he finally builds the machine. It then dawns on him what he must do next. He must travel back in time and leave the book on his own doorstep. However, this brings an interesting paradox. Who actually wrote the book and where did it come from? This is also similar to the famous grandfather paradox. If you went back in time and stopped your grandfather from having children, would you then exist? Or would it actually prove impossible to stop him from having children? The latest theory, proposed in September of 2020 by undergraduate Germaine Tobar, suggests that the universe has a self-correcting nature. For example, if you wanted to go back in time and stop the coronavirus pandemic, you may search for patient 0 and isolate them. In the process of doing so, the self-correcting theory suggests that you may end up becoming patient 0. Under the supervision of Dr. Fabio Costa, the undergraduate recently said in an interview, "The math checks out and the results are the stuff of science fiction." The pair believe that they have figured out a cohesive way for time travel to occur in our universe without any paradox. And this does make logical sense. After all, if you went back and stopped the pandemic, then there would be no motivation for you to go back in time in the first place. All of the time travel paradoxes are explained with a self-correcting timeline. Therefore, maybe time travelers did attempt to show up at Stephen Hawking's party, they just weren't allowed in. If you enjoyed this video, remember to like and share it. Let us know down in the comments if you would like to see more like this. Thanks for watching ElderFox.